you guys missed it. All right, guys. I am super excited. Today is the official start of NaNoWriMo. So, for those of you who have been following us, we started with Preptober and we went through all of that, talking about plots and brainstorming and writing process and all sorts of other good stuff. So, if you haven't had a chance to hear all of the sagely wisdom that we have, I definitely recommend going back and checking out those previous videos. They are time stamped, so you can pick and choose the parts that you want and that pertain to you the most. Highly recommend. Second of all, we have free resources as promised for you guys. So down in the show notes are worksheets and writing templates and a story timeline chart to help you kind of chart out everything for your book in every act. It's awesome. I know because I built it. And then it's made even prettier because Emily and Zara beautified it immensely. So if you guys want free stuff, I highly recommend going down and checking out the show notes. The link is live. Also, if you guys have questions at any point in time, please make sure to drop it over in the chat. I already see that we have one lovely contestant. Hello, Pioneers in Petticoats. So glad for you to join us. We are going to be doing writing sprints, live Nano writing sprints. And to kind of start us off, kind of get in the mood for writing, we have a couple of Q&A questions for each author to kind of go through, and then we're going to dive straight in to the writing sprints. So as we're answering questions, please know that you can drop your questions in the chat, and we'll be keeping an eye on that and being able to pull it up as we go. We're also going to ask that, hey, once we're done with the writing sprint, share with us what you were able to get done. Share with us what you're working on. This is the fun part about Nano. This is what we authors live for. So we're so excited to have you guys join us. Going to kick it off here, so that way we use the best time possible. Kyra, what is your advice on structuring a scene when there is nothing but a blank space and a faint idea staring at you? I think a lot of our authors will appreciate this.
That's very relatable content. Actually, I would recommend two quick things, but they're both connected to each other. The first thing, it's kind of funny that I keep saying that this dichotomy is false, because ultimately it is false, but it's helpful for framing and the drafting process. So the first thing you want to do is decide what the scene is and whether or not that scene is character driven or plot driven. That is huge. If you know that you want to cover a lot of action within a scene, that is a huge contextualizing point for how you're going to go about kind of sprinting through it. If you want it to be more of like a world building scene or a character driven or motivated scene, you're cognizant of the fact that it might not be as action heavy. It might lean more into description. And once you go back and edit this later on, you can sort of navigate the balance of infusing the aspects of other elements. So say you decide that this will be a character-driven scene, later on, you might imbue action elements in it. Now, the second thing that I would recommend is kind of getting a jump start on navigating that balance. So if you know that the scene, or you've decided that the scene is going to be more action-driven, the first moment, and you can change this later when you edit this, but I would recommend making the first moment of the scene character driven, because then if you anchor it with the opposite, you can continue throughout that scene with the more prominent aspect. So it's kind of like navigating the seesaw. You start it down and you see how much pressure you want to put on the other side. So that's what I would recommend, sort of as like an organizing principle. And then once you have all of the pieces put together, you can decide what you want to move to where.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, especially with world building, there is a very different feel for how you tackle that versus action. All right. We'll do our second question, and then we'll go ahead and dive into our first writing stream because I want to make sure that we get into this fast. And then we're going to tackle a couple more questions once we hit the end of the first writing sprint. So, Emily, have you ever modeled a character after a real life person, and what therapeutic benefit did you see in that, if so?
Yeah, so I have. I think that pretty much every author does to some degree, whether that's like modeling a character after yourself, someone you know, or another character that is from like another book or film or TV show or whatever that looks like. But as far as like Crimson Time as a series goes, some of my characters have elements of my friends, my family members, everyone from like professors that I've had before to like characters that I've been particularly drawn to or absolutely loathed. Because there's good and bad elements of all of those different types of people and characters. All of my characters too, to some degree, have elements of myself in them. I think Steven had talked about this before, how he'll like take elements that he either likes or doesn't like about himself and place them in different characters. But I do something kind of similar. They all, to some degree, have elements of myself. Probably the most obvious is Adelaide. She's the main character. We share a lot of similar interests and likes and passions and different things like that. But I too try to be purposeful about kind of making that distinction between us. So much so that, like, particularly because people ask me that a lot, like, are you Adelaide? And I'm like, well, kind of, not really, ish, somewhat. Like, there's no real, like, great answer to that. But particularly in, like, Fractured Past note from the author, I explicitly say, like, I am not fully her. She is not fully me. But there are several things that we share. So just like, for example, like Adelaide acts and then she thinks. Whereas like I'm the Rory Gilmore character in my life who makes a pro-con list of everything before I like do anything. So just because an author may share like characteristics or different things like that with a character that they're writing does not necessarily mean that they are that character. I think I've talked about this too, but all of my characters are descended from different historical figures. That's a huge element of my plot. So one of the things that I had to do was like strike a balance between leaning into those like characteristics and elements of their like ancestors and then like breaking those so that I'm making a unique individual character rather than like leaning too far into a trope or into like an actual real life person that existed. That element in particular like has been really interesting for me to kind of navigate. But leaning into or breaking those things have actually been really fun because doing both of those things have informed different elements of my plot and how my characters will interact or react in a situation. So yeah, so I have, and I think most people do to some degree.
Nice. Yeah, I forget about my lists. It happens. But
yes.
Yeah, live and die by the lists. You know, if I had more use for them, I probably would do them. I mean, technically speaking, I do make some lists, but yeah, it's bad. I don't stick to them very often. All right, guys, the moment you have been waiting for, our first official live sprint. I'm so excited. So this first live sprint, we are going to go for, there we go. We're going to go for 15 minutes. Now, if you've never done a live writing sprint before, that is A-okay. Let me explain it to you real quick. Essentially, I'm going to hit the timer. And then we are like crazy people going to face smash the keyboard until words come out. And once we have finished face smashing our keyboards for 15 minutes, we're going to come back and reconvene and talk about, hey, what did we write? what stood out to us, how many words we were able to get down. And then we're going to dive into a couple more questions and then do another writing sprint. We're going to try and get as many writing sprints in here as possible. And if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. So on the count of 3, we are going to get this thing going. 1, 2, 3. It's a little soon, but it's all right. All right. First 15 minutes are up. So, what did everybody get? Show and tell time.
I wrote a paragraph of 200 words, almost, for the epilogue of my book.
Very nice. Very, very
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you. Would you like me to read it for you?
Go for it. We
Is
want to
anyone
hear it.
interested? Without the context though, so.
Context, schmontext.
All right, ready? Wait, I have to pull this thing up. Okay, ready? So.
Yep.
Every ache dulled over time. Alejandro reminded himself when an ache that formed in his throat prevented him from forming a sentence. He would learn to live without the lulling kindness of her voice, the stories about the side of his father he never got to know, the dark hawk-like eyes tracing his face like he was the most worthy person on earth. It would take a while, Alejandro knew just by the sickening twist of wrong in his chest, but he would learn. He would have to learn to live this time around, truly live, without something he couldn't have. But God, was it hard to imagine it when that thing he couldn't have was real and tangible and standing right in front of him.
Ooh, I like.
Thank you. First draft, you know?
Very, very nice.
Work in progress.
Looks like we got another. So is it? So are you Leia? I'm assuming you are. Since that's it's on the YouTube. But 459 words for a new scene, developing backstory. Love it. Absolutely love. And then in response to Zara's excellent. Rock on. Welcome, Leia.
Thank you, Leah.
Welcome to the Madhouse.
Thank you, Leah.
I wrote 231 words because I am pantsing the bejesus out of this short story and just making stuff up as I go. But I'll read the opening paragraph of chapter 1. This is not what I just wrote. This was like a couple of weeks back, just to kind of give everybody. This is the first anybody's hearing of like what's actually in the story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Everything was chaos. A black void replaced Kyla's vision as she walked the streets of Manhattan, and the only thing she could comprehend was the screams. From everywhere around her, cries of alarm rose in unison, followed a split second later by the squealing of tires and crunching metal. Panic filled her veins, and she desperately dove to her right, where the wall had been moments before. What the hell is happening?
Ooh.
For some reason, I feel personally attacked because my name is Kyra and I live in Manhattan.
No personal attacks were made in the process of writing this story.
I know.
Yeah, but that's that. The 200 words for chapter 4 are not coherent yet, so those will not be shared.
You have
until
some
the
good
second.
stuff here, Stephen. I mean, if a catastrophe is gonna strike anywhere, it's probably gonna strike New York.
I know it's like the center of everything bad that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It might end up changing because I almost just feel bad for New York. You know, none of the songs ever talk about New York. New York sucks to be hit by a tidal wave. New York.
Isn't that where one of the Avengers took place?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first Avenger.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that was kind of like an apocalyptic event.
Yeah. If it's about day after tomorrow.
Day after tomorrow,
seriously,
exactly. 2004.
If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen to New York. Okay, so Leah says I have a well-established outline, 31,000 words now, are now putting it all together and officially making it work. Nice.
That's awesome.
That is
Nice.
amazing.
Very good. Yeah, I'm not that thorough. I'm just like, YOLO! Yeah, fun times. Kyra, Emily, how about you? What did you guys get done?
I have 140. It's a good start.
Nice.
That is probably going to be the first part of the first chapter in a new series. So, I mean, I can read that if you would like.
I
Is this the
started
one with
dangerous
mermaids?
precedent because I have a big mouth and no filter. So now, please, anyone who doesn't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it.
No, we're
Oh,
all
no,
peer
that's
pressured
okay.
now, Zara.
Okay. Tamarin's breaths came heavy and fast as she jolted awake in the dark. Pale silk sheets wrapped around her legs and sweat iced her body like the cold water she had just dreamed filled her lungs and stole her life. Her fingers clawed at the sheets that felt far too much like the weights and rope that were tied around her ankles in the dream. She fumbled for the drawer of her nightstand and retrieved a small book of matches. The scratch of fiction broke the silence as a flame ignited, chasing away the night. She set the flame on the taper candle beside her. Tamarin settled a robe on her shoulders and swiped the taper from her nightstand, a chill reminding her of... I don't know what's going on there. A chill slid down her spine as her bare feet met the polished cobblestones of the castle floor. And
Nice.
Wonderful. I love the realness of it. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Exactly. Don't don't put pressure on yourself to know what's going on when you're doing a first draft. No.
For real.
And yes,
Words
just
are
as
written.
amazing word.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Like, technically speaking, I should have my outline open, but I don't. That's called poor planning on my part, because I don't want to break the interweber nets while trying to maintain the 15-minute timer on there.
Oh, totally.
I only have so many screens. Like, if I had like a third or fourth monitor, then maybe I would just spread it out and look like Neo from the freaking Matrix. But I don't have that capability as of yet.
I love that. Oh yeah.
Kyra, how about you? What'd you get?
So I'm old-fashioned, and for some weird reason, I can never start a scene typing. I could finish a scene typing it, but I can't start a scene typing it. So I hand wrote this. So I don't know how long it is. Probably in like the 150 range at max. And it's kind of like a transition scene. So I could read it if I could read my handwriting. I'm watching the embers in the fireplace as Mom walks through the door, scraping the dirt off her boots and onto the lions' faces on the welcome mat. I don't turn my head to see her, but her movements sound tired. Mom always jokes about how she's getting older and slower, but I could feel the fatigue suspended in the long pauses between her steps. She's tired, so I shouldn't tell her about Steal Away, right? She'd probably freak out if I just casually mentioned that my underage self went to a bar with my friends. I didn't drink anything but ginger ale, but still. Hey, A, Mom calls as she gingerly creeps toward the kitchen. How was your day? It was long, but it was fine, my voice hollow. Maybe I'm tired too. How was your day, Mama? It was also long and fine. Mom comes and sits on the other end of the couch for me. I still can't bring myself to look at her directly, my eyes still fixed on the embers.
Nice.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Well, like fire is involved in some way.
Yeah.
Pyro. Oh. Is shared with us. Miss Jameson, a well-starched servant. I am reading that right. Yes. Not that this changes anything. It's just the color. Okay. Now I feel dumb. Anyway, a well-starched servant was standing at the door. The servant's eyes were cold and posture rigid. Her fingers tapped against her side impatiently. The headmaster is ready for you. Oh, snap. Headmaster is never good.
Yeah.
If they're going to see the headmaster, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
That's like, ooh. Things are going to get spicy real fast.
Unless you're Dumbledore and you don't give a crap about anything. And you're just like, whatever, you murdered somebody, it's fine. we didn't like him anyway. It's okay. That's how Dumbledore rose. Okay, so then So we'll do 2 quick questions and then dive into the next writing sprint here. So, Zara, what do you get inside your characters, or what do you do to get inside your characters' heads?
Right. So it varies depending on how much writing you have done. So if you have absolutely nothing and you're just starting chapter 1 of your book, what I do is basically treat my characters as I would treat my friends when I want to get to know them. So asking questions. Um, so yeah, it may seem a little weird or schizophrenic, but I open up a Word document and I, based on what I have in mind for a scene, I start asking questions. So, what mood are you in? What are you going to do right now? Are you going for a coffee with a friend? All right. Are you excited or are you annoyed to go there? That kind of stuff. And if I already done a bunch of writing and I need to get back into my character's head, I honestly just go back and reread what I have already written, and I'm already there. So that's kind of my advice.
Very nice. Actually, Leah brought up a good point. Character interviews always get the juices flowing.
Yeah, we're on the same page, girl.
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Except, yeah, I was gonna say that my characters don't talk to me. I can't get my characters to stop talking to me. One shows up, and then if I make the one wrong move, they all show up, and they're just like, payback. All right, for me, what essential advice would you give our lovely viewing audience if they were trying NaNoWriMo for the first time? Buckle up, Cupcake, because it gets rough. That would be the first part of it. The second part is to realize that this is like, while 50,000 words is a great goal to shoot for, this is for fun. Writing is for fun. You should enjoy yourself. So, like, seriously, like if you're gonna go into Nano thinking like, all right, I'm just gonna buckle down in my bunker and put on my helmet, and then I'm not gonna leave. I'm gonna hit 1,600 words every single day, and it's gonna happen. Take a deep breath and maybe a couple doses of chill, and then call me in the morning. Seriously, Nano is supposed to be fun. Like, am I stressing that I'm trying to write 4 short story novels in a single month? Yeah. But it's okay if I don't actually get them all done. Like, I'm going to try and get at least 2 or 3 of them. I don't think I will realistically hit all 4. That's okay. I get to have fun and hang out with you guys on Mondays, and then I'm doing it over on my Instagram live on Fridays. Like, it's meant to be a great time. So treat it as a good time. Do it with friends. Come hang out with us. And we'll all lose our minds together. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. Let's see here. Liz husband's making lasagna. Okay, send me some. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Because now I'm hungry.
Yes.
Homeschool Mom asked, how much does it cost to publish a book? That question we will come back to before we end here, because that is a great question, and Leah touched on it a little bit already. But we will circle back around to that after our next writing sprint, because lots of opinions across the board on that one. All right, guys. So let's get this party started once again. We're setting the clock to 15 minutes. And if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will address them at the end. On your mark. Ready, set, go. All right, everyone. Time is up. So, how did we all do? Anyone want to go first talking about what they had? We don't necessarily need to read anything, just kind of do like word count. Don't be scared.
I have 181. So 41 more than last time.
Nice. Trying to figure out where I left off. Oh, wait, there it is. Found it. We're all good. What is that? So I think I got close to another like 250, 60 some odd words. Somewhere thereabouts. I'm at 550 or 523 overall for chapter 4. So
Nice.
that's where I ended up. And Zara, how about for you? Did you add anything else to your epilogue?
Well, I got stuck a little bit, so I took my own advice from previous live streams and didn't push it, and instead did what good authors do, which is get inspired. So I have this book on my desk at all times right now that I'm writing that helps me form the narrative. And I read this wonderful little paragraph about a national revolution in La Paz in 1952. And now I know exactly what I'm going to write about once we're out of here, and I'll resume my work. So be kind to yourself, writers. Don't push it.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I've got this thick boy. It's the
You could kill someone
Norton.
with that.
You could. It is a hefty beast. It's the Norton Anthology of English Literature, the major authors 7th edition of basically like everything. I'm reading through Beowulf right now because it goes by times, and Beowulf is I'm enjoying it. I must say it's a pretty sweet little book there.
I love English authors.
Yeah, there's just so much good stuff.
Yeah. Lord Byron especially is great. So
I think he's in there.
yeah, he should be. He's great.
Yeah, if he's not, then I'll make sure to have words with them, because I do feel like
Lord Byron is amazing.
I saw his name in there.
Yeah, he's amazing. Definitely get inspired by him if you write historical fiction, especially. Leah, you write historical fiction, so definitely check out Lord Byron. You're gonna appreciate him.
Speaking of which, she got 182 words, reworking an existing chapter, and reached the goal for the day. Very, very nice.
There you go.
Nice.
Stealing books, read and steal ideas. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Getting inspired, best thing that you could possibly do. Love it. Kyra, how about for you? What did you handwrite?
Again, I don't know the word count, but I continued on with that scene, and it like suddenly became the beginning of like an argument ? Not quite an argument, just sort of like I don't know how to reach you. I don't know what to do. Don't worry, Mom. It's not you. It's me being a mess, basically. But more poetic than that.
I like
A
it.
nice friction point.
Huh?
A nice friction point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, that sounds like my entire teenage childhood. It's just
Oh my god.
just all of that right there.
Poor Mrs. Howard.
All right, so want to get to your question, Homeschool Mom. Let me pull this back up here because I do have some opinions about this, and because I just recently talked with somebody about it, I wanted to kind of throw this out there, and then I'll let everybody else kind of talk about it. So when it comes to publishing cost, it's going to differ on who you talk to. Considerably differ from who you talk to. So if you were to ask me, I'm going to tell you that to publish an 80,000 word fantasy novel is going to cost you in the neighborhood of about $5,000. Now, that being said, it can be done for cheaper, and I'm fully aware of this. I'm talking about market price for authors and for cover design. Okay, so this isn't talking about like you're going budget. This is what it would just cost you. And I can back up my numbers. And I want to share real quick with you. Let's see, where did it go? I think it's this one. Is this the one? Hey, it is the one. Okay, so I'm going to... Nope, that blocks it. Okay. So if I'm... and I'm going to talk specifically about fantasy. And let's do 80,000 words. Okay, so now an editorial assessment, which is... Here, can I make this any bigger? Yeah, that kind of works. An editorial assessment, I'm not necessarily saying that you need to get one of these. What you do need for sure is developmental editing, which the average cost for a developmental editor is probably going to be 0.025 cents per word. Oh, Leah's got to run. Lasagna's calling. Leah, it was so wonderful to meet you. We look forward to seeing you guys, seeing you around the rest of this month. The next thing that you're going to want is copy editing. And then you're definitely going to need proofreading. Now, some will provide a combo service. Some editors will do a combo service. So you can get it on a little bit of a discount. The other thing to take into consideration here is you have formatting for your book. You also have cover design for your book. And to get a good professional cover design, you're probably going to be looking at a minimum of about $500, depending on how in-depth you want to get with this. So just make sure that you're taking some of that into account. In addition, you'll want to let's see, what was the there was something else that was with that. I just forgot what it was. Shoot. So anyway, these are the actual prices for editing, okay? And we're talking like market prices. Leah pointed out that Fiverr is an option, which it absolutely is. So that is definitely something that you can choose to do. But if you're going to bring a book that size to market and pay what everyone else is paying for the like big five, top five, all of them, they're paying closer to these prices per book. You can get it done for less, but just know that that's going to be on average what you could expect to pay. And I would suggest plan for that in mind, and then find ways that you can discount or figure out editors who can discount some of those prices for you. Emily, what are your thoughts here?
So I've never actually like broken it down as far as that, but I would agree with probably like around 500 for the cover design, because that's something I've been diving a little bit deeper into for like additional covers for other versions of Crimson Time. And I mean, that's probably even like the base for a good cover. I've seen like skyrocketing from there. So again, it kind of all goes back to kind of like the quality that you want and what you're willing to pay for. Kind of setting that budget ahead of time and being willing to fudge it either which way, depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is specifically, we're talking like if you're going to go the straight self-publishing route. Traditional publisher, they're going to cover all of these costs because they're probably going to pay you some form of an advance, and then they're going to base what they can make off the first like 10,000 copies sold. So, you know, all of those prices, that's what you're looking at if you're going to straight self-publish. Now, we ended up crowdsourcing the funds needed and then publishing through NDP, or New Degree Press. And so we got all of the cover design, the editing, the layout, the proofreading, the copy editing, all of that stuff covered by crowdsourcing or crowdfunding. So you could do either a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo. And what I highly recommend, and this is as someone who's done developmental editing, I wasn't the cheapest person out there. And there are other people who are kind of just getting into editing, still qualified, still really solid editors, but they don't have a client base necessarily. And so they're usually going to be at a discounted rate, usually anywhere between a penny per word and 0.015 cents per word. Developmental editing is the most expensive form of editing, and it is the most essential form of editing, next to copy editing. And if anybody else tells you differently, they're lying to you, because it is absolutely essential to make sure that everything flows smoothly. Any other additional thoughts, Emily, on the cost for stuff?
I would just also support the developmental editing being one of the most important editing pieces of the process. I think for me, especially, that was where I really saw my book start to like grow. And I started to kind of understand what I was actually wanting to do with it, what I was working through, the different things that were kind of incorporated in the story itself, but also what I was trying to get across to my readers. So yeah, if you're gonna cut corners anywhere, don't let it be with your developmental editor.
Yeah, I agree. Editorial assessment, again, that's not something that you really need to do. That's there's other ways that you can get an assessment, but I wouldn't necessarily fork out $1,000 for that. Most developmental editors, if you're going to start there, which you should, once you can do your first draft. I've recommended to people that they submit their first draft. But at minimum, your second draft should be what you send into a developmental editor, because it really will save you an extra revision, or from having to do an extra revision cycle than was going to be the case beforehand. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you didn't catch it on the front end, we do have free resources down below. We have streams every Monday through NaNo, from 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central time. So make sure that you come and join us. I will be hosting live streams, writing sprints on my Instagram channel, which the link to that is also down in the show notes. So if you'd like to come and join and hang out with me during that, that'll be on Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'll look forward to seeing you guys there for that. Until then, guys, happy writing, and we will talk to you all again very, very soon.